All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders, the GMS, rule well, teach well, being great examples towards other brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations to the whole flake out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the whole flake, the believers and listeners when they came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua. All right, so on this edition of morning news and prophecy, all right, dealing with Saya after Saya, all right, and things are speeding up, as we enter the so-called New Year 2026, it began with a bang, all right, with the devil, done in Venezuela, all right, now the protests in Iran, all right, we're going to some more news on that, update on that, okay, we have, updates on the economy and the ripple effect, okay, of, what was done in Venezuela. Now you have the ICE, incident, which is, presented to be a psyop. We're going to get into that. And it's a lot going on. All right. And we have to understand as we get closer to the end, it's prophesied in the scriptures, things are going to speed up. Okay. So this is the time now for us to be anchored, okay, in what we believe. Okay. Because this devil is going to have people all over the place, man. People are going to be more confused than ever. We come into a time of great confusion. Okay. And having a thorough understanding of the scripture is going to be stability in this time, So the Lord gave us this grace period to be anchored down in the understanding, okay, of prophecy, man. That's why prophecy was always at the forefront of the ministry. The Spirit has always been on the apostles and elders, beginning with elder apostles to heart to tap into prophecy, man. Okay, because now that we're in the thick of prophecy, okay, we understand what's going on. We understand that these things must be, all right? And when you understand prophecy, these things become a faith booster because it shows that he is. Okay? But if you're confused, you don't know, you got Jake still arguing about what the name is, and, Jake don't know who salvation is for. Do we got the Hebrew? If you're still scratching your head, okay, on that part of the doctrine, there's no way, that you're anchored and rooted coming into the times that we're coming into, man. Okay? And this is why prophecy was always at the forefront of the ministry, man, because now we're in the thick of it, man. Okay, so let's, matter of fact, the brother got a good precept, then we're going to get some more precepts. This is a brother, Matthias 1, Hope, Elect 144, this is a Rock 50 and 28. Blessed is he, all right, that shall be exercised in these things, okay, and when you exercise something that's repetition, that's why we repeatedly go into these things, we repeatedly go into the breakdowns, we repeatedly go into the news, we repeatedly, all right, go into current events and, okay, break down, the prophetic scriptures. It's an exercise. Okay, so when we see these things, we recognize it because we've been exercising these things, man. Okay? And it says, and he that layeth them up in his heart, which is his mind, shall become wise, man. Okay? We're becoming wise, okay? In all understanding, and how to, in our day-to-day life, and also when it comes to prophetic events, we're becoming wise to where we can tie these things together that's happening in real time according to the scriptures, man. Okay? So let's go here real quick. Let's get this in the book of 2nd Ezra. All right. And in fact, before I get 16, let's go. Let's read 15. Then we go to come back to 16. So let's go here. This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15. All right, in verse 1, it says, "Behold, and this is a command: speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shah." Okay? So we're commanded, by the Heavenly Father, okay, and it's reinforced through his son Yahweh Shah, to speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, man. Jake needs to, the Lord wants Jake to understand prophecy. Now if they reject it, that's on them. Okay, but Yahweh Bashem Shah wants prophecy at the forefront, okay, of the ministry, man. You see, because it's vital to understand the times that we're coming into. Okay, so we can be rooted, so we're not shaken, okay, when these things happen, because we've been told these things. Okay, even Yahweh Shai, all right, which we'll get it. It says, and call them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Yeah, so the Bible is full of the Lord's will. The Bible is full of the Lord's will. Okay, because prophecy is just a future will of Yahweh Bashem Shai, what he's going to do in future tense. Okay, and we've been given an understanding of that. Okay? And these things are faithful and true. The Bible is full of events that will surely come to pass. As the scriptures say, none of these shall fail. And as we look out, none of these are failing. Everything is playing out exactly how the Lord said it will play out, man. Even when Esau does particular things, and puts off like he just made some big victory, it's all working towards prophecy, man. We're gonna get into that as well. Okay? Prophecy is checkmating this man. Okay? Esau, he's trying his best, to overcome prophecy, and he's being checkmated. Okay? At every turn, this devil is being checkmated, man. Okay? Because he's finna lose. Okay? Well, we got to understand, this devil is getting ready to lose, man. All right? Ain't no victory for Esau in the scriptures, man. Within the will of Yahweh Shema Shah, there's no victory for this, man. And we got to get rooted. We got to be rooted in that. Because to the masses, he can portray himself as victorious in everything that he's doing with his propaganda. But we know it's a lie. Okay? We know to throw out everything, okay, that doesn't line up with the scripture. We know to throw that out. And most people, they're being bombarded with all these different psyops to where they can't think straight. They don't know they're coming and going. They don't know what's next. They don't know nothing, man. Okay? And that's the part of the psyops, is to keep you confused, okay? Keep you distracted, keep you misinformed, okay? Keep you divided, keep you worried about things that don't matter. Okay? That's the whole purpose of a psyop, man. It's a psychological operation, man. Where the devil plays with your psyche, all right, to have you what? Uncertain. Okay? And then he can present himself as being a sure foundation. But we know our sure foundation is Yahweh Shai, and what he's getting ready to bring to the earth, man. That's our sure foundation. Okay? But this devil, he just has like his psyops creates an earthquake in people's mind. Okay? Then he can come on the scene and present his new world order to stabilize everything out, man. Okay? So, let's finish this. It says, fear not the imagination against thee, let not the incredulity or the ability to believe. Okay? Because 2/3, they just don't have the ability to believe. All right? And the Lord didn't grant them. And that's why Yahweh Shah said, what? Unto you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom. But unto them it is not given. So 2/3 don't even have the ability to believe. They don't have the ability to have faith. But remember, faith is a gift. Okay? So their unbelief has nothing to do with the will of the Lord playing out in the earth. Okay? Because they can't believe. You see? And it's not on them. It's not on us to make them believe, man. All right? He said, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness, man. There's a lot of people getting ready to be judged in their unfaithfulness, man. Because the Lord has raised up his prophets. He has extended his hand of mercy. Okay? He said, watchmen on the walls. The scriptures say, they shall not hold their peace day and night. Okay? So Jake has no cloak for their skin. No cloak for their sin. Okay? And a lot of our people are going to die in their unbelief. But one thing they can't say, they haven't been told, they haven't been warned. So we're going to continue to ring the alarm, okay, as we're commanded to do. Now let's go here. You go to, this is 2nd Ezra 16. All right, let's start at, we'll bounce around a little bit. At 21. 2nd Ezra 16 and 21 says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. You see, and I put emphasis on great confusion. So people are able to go about, their day to day. Even though they hear about all these things that's happening, as long as people day to day are not affected, even though they're catching hell, but they still can afford a piece of convenience. Okay, and as long as these people can afford a little piece of convenience, they don't care what's going on around them. They don't see the evils that's growing around them. Okay, they don't see war growing up. They don't see civil unrest growing up. They don't believe that a famine is coming because all they know is abundance. Okay, and as these things start to happen and become reality, that's when the great confusion gonna kick in. Okay, because they haven't been exercising these things. Okay, that's when the great confusion is going to kick in because they haven't been exercised. Okay, in prophecy, man. And they're not predestined to believe and to be delivered, man. Okay, and to get the victory over this place, man. Okay, so jumping down from there, I start reading 22. It says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish in famine. You see, there's a lot of people that's going to be cut off from access to food, man. Okay, the Lord will make a statement, man. Okay, this place of abundance and gluttonous and pride. All right, what better way to humble pride with a famine? You know, everybody on the internet talking this shit. Everybody just, you know, this great guru. Everybody got it figured out, and you know, everybody's super tough and all. Okay, well, see, you fight this famine. Okay, you see, you young niggas put this Draco on the famine. Okay, shoot the famine up. Okay, go on the rant on the famine. On, you know, nah, man, the Lord finna bring pride. Okay, to nothing in the earth. And the scriptures say the Lord gonna cause pride to cease. Okay, that means pride gonna take a rest in the earth, man. Okay, because pride been on overtime in this society, man. But that famine, it's gonna knock a lot of pride out the earth, man, especially over here in America, man. Alright? It says, in the other that escape the hunger, the sword shall destroy, man. Okay? So the Lord has nothing but judgment prepared for this place, man, and we're living in the build-up to that judgment. Okay, and things are speeding up, man. Okay, because this devil, he know if he have but a short time, man, and this devil got a lot to do. Okay? This man has a lot to do to try to pull this off, man. So prepare for this man to get more tacky, more frantic, alright, more violent, okay? Because he needs to fast track this thing. He needs to move the needle. Okay? Verse 37, behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack, as when a woman with child in the 9th month, bringing forth her son with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compares her womb, which pain when the child coming forth, they slack not a moment, man. So it's like, now, this devil running so many psyops that you can't even fully digest the first one before he hit you with something else. You know, people are still unpacking what happened in Venezuela, and now you have this thing with ICE. Okay, and then we're going to go into it. They supposedly have blackouts now in Iran, media blackouts, all right, to where they have internet outages so people can't post, you know, what's going on. Okay?
All right, so but that's actually, and that's been dissected, believe it or not, you know. Hey, Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, the great millstone, who are teaching the truth and sincerity. And shout out to the Akims out there in the 4 quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Barak of the Yahweh, Barak of the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Bakatum. So, you know, like everything else, though, we always got to watch where we're getting our reports from, because the greatest of all news agencies in Iran is Press TV. And that's very well up and running, so there is no media block out there. You know, Middle East Monitor is the one that put out that article saying that there was a blackout, media blackout there. But it ends up being a farce. I don't know if that article's still up here, but I'm going to go ahead and look for it, because I do remember that article coming up, because it was, you know, I get flashes just like everybody else that's in this truth. You know, gets flashes, but it'll say that. Let's just see, that's a few reports ago. Yeah, see, Iran experiencing internet restrictions, says online monitoring group. Now, like everything else, though, you know, that's, yeah, they claim to have a nationwide internet blackout. This is it right here. Well, you know, this is actually a farce. This turns out to be bogus, because, again, Press TV gives you all the news, and even have it in English, so you could definitely, you know, say that, okay, that's not entirely accurate. But here's what's going on. Same news agency, right? Russia carries out 3 evacuation flights from the Israeli state in 24 hours. In under 24 hours. So, what's this talking about? Well, they know about that surprise attack against Iran. They're also clearing out, because I think that they've given Iran the okay to do a preemptive strike against the Israeli state, who did send in Mossad agents and willingly admit that they sent in Mossad agents into Iran. So that's considered an attack against Iran, all those fires and everything else that's being caused, and Trump threatening them. I'm thinking that Iran's about to strike, and that's why Russia is going ahead and going to remove anybody that's over there. U.S. releases Russian crew members of the seized tanker. Foreign Ministry said as it welcomed the decision by President Trump. So basically, you know, that, you know, after being detained, of course, they'll be glad to leave. U.S. President Trump made the move in response to a request by the Kremlin, the ministry said. We welcome this decision and express our gratitude to the U.S. leadership, statement read. Yeah, I think that Russia demanded their release immediately, you know, because Russia does definitely have a right to respond. This is an act of war against Russia. They could respond. Outright piracy. Moscow slammed U.S. seizure of Russian-flagged oil tanker in the North Atlantic. They also said that they could sink ships if they had wanted to. So, they mean fucking business. They're capable of sinking U.S. ships. This was a war act. Russia condemned the U.S. capture of a Russian-flagged oil tanker in the Atlantic as violation of the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. U.S. European Command announced the seizure of Marina, previously known as the Bella 1, linked to Venezuela oil, on Wednesday for alleged violation of U.S. sanctions. So, yeah, you try to enforce your imperialism on Russia. See what happens. See that they don't fire back. And this also happened after that attempt on Vladimir Putin. You know, Russia has hit Ukraine. Ukraine hit with a Reznik hypersonic missile in retaliation for the attempted terror attack against Putin's residence. Russia launched another massive overnight strike against Ukraine using its hypersonic Reznik missile as part of a large-scale assault said to be in retaliation for the Ukraine attempt drone strike against Putin's residence last month. Kiev was hit hard in a fresh missile and drone attack which set apartments on fire and killed at least 4 people. Importantly, Ukraine officials said the ballistic missile traveling at hypersonic speed hit an infrastructure facility near the far western city of Lviv. So, here's the Reznik missile. So, yeah, they have these. Yeah, you can see how fast it was. It was fast like lightning. That's how quick it hit. Yeah, here's some more. Well, it's one of the places hit. So, like everything else, a lot of people know that the ISIS deportations, you know, that the mass deportations is a hoax, you know, especially when you start firing on U.S. citizens, right? You know, even though a lot of them are not so-called illegals, but nonetheless, so this has got people in an uproar. You know, if you hadn't caught yesterday's video, I'm sure you've caught it on the news. You know, there's uproars everywhere over ISIS shooting a woman from Minnesota who was trying to escape them.
I get asked all the time about how my mom recovered her memory.
Slovakia.
She just turned 82.
This is bullshit.
Almost no one knows this, but...
Fuck you.
If you're struggling to lose weight,
Fuck
this
you.
is going to sound completely wild, but
Fuck
I
you.
promise it's 100% real.
Fuck
what
you.
happened yesterday, not far from our studios here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A white female American citizen called Renee Good was shot in the face and killed by an ICE agent who's in Minneapolis as part of the fake mass deportation operation that we're told is directed towards Somali invaders. But instead, just like we have seen in every other city where these headline-grabbing, minimal deportation, fake raids are taking place, the brunt of the government's use of force has not been directed toward the invaders, but instead has been directed toward the citizenry, which in my opinion has been the plan the entire time. The American people were told on repeat throughout the entire 2024 election cycle that if they would just support Donald Trump one more time, that the upwards of 50 million illegal invaders in this country would be put on notice. And before long, men with masks
But no, what you got is martial
would be coming
law.
to their doors and taking them into custody and ushering them away and sending them back to where they belong, back to where they came from.
That's what you're
Well, that
told.
hasn't happened. It hasn't happened at all. Instead, throughout the entire year of 2025, as we saw in cities like Los Angeles and Chicago and Washington, D.C. and Charlotte, targeted by these federal agents, less than 1 million total illegal invaders were kicked out of our country. Less than 1 million, much less. In fact, according to the Trump administration's own numbers, they deported around 500,000 illegals. And according to independent estimates, it was even less than that. So, I mean, just think about how ineffective these people have been. The most well-known deportee, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, this hardened gangbanger and wife abuser known to the media as the innocent Maryland dad, was sent back to El Salvador and then brought right back into our country. And he's been released from custody, and he's living in this country illegally right now, and no one is doing a damn thing about it.
Because
Nazi
it's a hoax,
promotions have been fake
yes.
and a complete and total failure, and not a failure in the traditional sense of the term, because they haven't actually been attempted. And they're not going to be. Instead, these so-called made-for-TV deportation, fake raids, and immigration enforcement operations are being used to facilitate violent confrontations between American citizens and federal law enforcement and everyone else that gets thrown into the mix to turn these cities into even bigger hellscapes than they already are, and create a set of circumstances that's needed to usher in the totalitarian crackdown that will lead to the implementation of the volunteer-style AI surveillance state that people like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance were put into power to implement. At this point, how the entire country isn't seeing this for what it really is just beyond me. These mass deportations were a lie from the beginning.
Well, most are retarded,
and now so-called
sir.
conservatives are being gaslit into cheering on the murder of an American citizen by federal law enforcement who herself was gaslit into being there in the first place. She was made to believe that she was part of some kind of a color revolution, part of a social justice counterattack against a fascist regime. But that's not what this is. That's not who these people are, not in the least. Instead, just like the American troops who've been sent all over the Middle East to serve as cannon fodder, as sitting ducks, and act as bait for an Iranian-backed terror attack that will no doubt facilitate full-scale war, people like Renee Good have been sent out into the streets of our country by their political overlords to serve as bait for yet another year of rioting all across our country that will give these people the pretext needed to shred the United States Constitution. So yeah, we're swimming in extremely dangerous waters here. And it's an absolute tragedy that Renee Good, who was the mother of 3 children, including one whose father was preceded by her in death, was convinced by this sick and depraved psyop society that we live in to take a female lover and insert her children into that situation, and then to drop those children off at school and go out into the streets and face off against federal agents, not on behalf of her kids, not on behalf of her neighborhood or her family or even herself, but instead on behalf of invaders who hate her. What do you think that they would do to her in Mogadishu if they got their hands on a white American lesbian who professes to be a Christian? But for some reason, people like Renee Good and a whole lot more have been convinced that defending the very same people who would do unspeakable acts to her if given the chance is the entire reason that they're alive. And all of that has led up to all of this. It's all led up to an American citizen, a mother, being shot like a dog by an ICE agent who deliberately put himself into harm's way. We have video footage of this shooting teed up. Let's go ahead and air it.
Basically, she was just trying to escape when these ISIS agents came upon her.
No! No! Shame!
Yeah, she deliberately did move in front of the vehicle.
What the fuck? What the fuck? You just fucking... What the fuck did you do? You are fucking criminals! You're fucking criminals! What the fuck? What the fuck? What the actual fuck? You are fucking insane! What did you do? You! Shame! 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 Shame!
Yeah, this seems to be staged. Yeah, I'm sure that I would just yell shame, shame when I see a fucking cop shoot somebody. Fuck no, I wouldn't be. I'd be fucking scared. I'd be like, hey, don't shoot me. Hands up, don't shoot, you know?
Dude, you
This thing's
shot her.
totally staged.
I'm trying to help. No! You fucking shot someone in the fucking face!
It's interesting to see the whole video,
You
actually.
shot someone in the fucking face! Do you have a conscience? Do you have a conscience? Don't let the murderer leave! Don't let the murderer leave! You guys are the fucking criminals! You don't get to tell us what to do! Fucking criminals! Don't let him leave! Don't let him leave!
So, like everything else, so you can see that is totally staged to get people to want to riot. Again, had it been a real situation, they're not going to let you fucking film them. I can guarantee you that. You know what the first thing a cop says? Any cop, okay, whether they're ISIS or whatever? Shut that fucking camera off! Turn that fucking camera off! That's what they'll fucking tell you. And they'll come after you for filming them because it's illegal to film them, remember? You don't remember. This whole thing is staged, alright? You know, every access a picture, you know? But we're not fooled by it. See, we're the elect, so we're not fooled by this. Happening today, Trump meeting with U.S. oil execs from Exxon, Shell, and others to discuss Venezuela. Leaders from Chevron, Exxon, ConocoPhillips, Continental, Halliburton, HKN, Valero, Marathon, Shell, Trafigura, Vital Americas, Respal, I mean, just the list goes on. Attended along with Secretary of State Rubio, Energy Secretary Wright, and Interior Secretary Burgum. Wright has already held several talks with several executives earlier this week. According to the White House, the discussions will center on investment opportunities that will restore Venezuela oil infrastructure. You mean restructure America's oil. Trump argued that Venezuela's vast oil reserves could help revive its economy while also benefiting U.S. customers. Yeah, sure. They're freeloading off of their conquest. Well, who's really benefiting from it? Well, you're going to find out. Is that really going to, Arco and all those other stations to, where gas might be actually a little bit reasonable here in California? Fuck no, it ain't. You know where it's going to? To fuel Israeli jets to make their moves against Iran. They needed the resources from Venezuela to make their moves against Iran. U.S. Senate passes war powers resolution to rein in further military action against Venezuela. Lawmakers aim to force President Trump to obtain obtain congressional approval before launching more attacks against Venezuela and other regions. The U.S. Senate narrowly moved forward with war powers resolution on the 8th of January seeking to block the use of further military force against Venezuela without congressional approval. Well, a lot of good that did. I don't think that they need any more military action because he'd already canceled the second wave. Trump canceled the second wave of attacks against Venezuela. You already have it. If you already got it, what do you need to blow it up for, right? These other people are ready to suck your cock. She gives good blowjobs. That vice president's already sucking his cock. U.S. President Trump canceled the second wave of attacks against Venezuela, saying Washington and Caracas are cooperating, including on rebuilding the South America's country energy infrastructure. Right. So, she's already sucking his cock. So there's no need for that. Trump proposes $1.5 trillion Pentagon budget to build Dream Team military. The Dream Team is in the house. So, like everything else though, so that way they can come into your cities and raid your homeless out. U.S. President is prioritizing military spending as the U.S. national debt surpasses $38 trillion. It's just a blank check. Washington is spending large amounts to support the Israeli state and its genocide of Palestinians in Gaza and its bombings and occupations of Lebanon and Syria, providing some $21 billion in military aid to Tel Aviv since October 2023. But like everything else though, that's where it's going. That's what the Venezuela oil seizure is, to get even more money. Hey, and don't forget about this dirty deal with Syria, because Israeli state and Syria already made a deal. That's why Golan Heights is no longer talked about.
The Islamist-led Syrian interim government reached a preliminary agreement with Israel and began escalating against the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces immediately after that. Tensions between the government and the SDF have been building up for months over the failure to implement the integration agreement signed last March. The end-of-the-year deadline passed with no progress, and direct talks held in Damascus on January 4th failed to produce any meaningful understanding. However, a new round of talks with Israel that began in Paris on January 5th was more successful and resulted in a preliminary agreement that was announced the next day. A joint statement from the two countries and the United States said that the talks resulted in the creation of a joint fusion mechanism, a dedicated communication cell meant to facilitate immediate and ongoing coordination on their intelligence sharing, military de-escalation, diplomatic engagement, and commercial opportunities. Right after the announcement of the preliminary agreement with Israel on January 6th, Syrian government forces began attacking the Kurdish neighborhoods of Sheikh Maksud and Ashrafiyeh in the northern city of Aleppo. Multiple attempts to de-escalate failed. By the end of the day, it became clear that government forces are preparing a military operation to capture the neighborhoods, which are under the de facto control of the SDF. On January 7th, government forces declared Sheikh Maksud and Ashrafiyeh a closed military zone and classified all SDF positions within the two neighborhoods as legitimate military targets. The military also announced a curfew and opened 2 evacuation corridors, promoting an exodus of civilians from the neighborhoods. Kurdish forces said that they repelled multiple attacks to the north and east of the neighborhoods, mainly along the Castillo Road and the Al Ramoun roundabout. Government forces denied any attempt to storm the neighborhood, but confirmed that they will later launch a military operation there. On January 8th, the government escalated strikes on Kurdish forces after issuing a warning. Clashes have so far claimed the lives of 15 people, including 7 civilians from Sheikh Maqsoud and Ashrafiyeh, as well as 5 members of government forces. Despite the progress in talks with Syria, Israel condemned the attack on Kurdish forces in Aleppo city, with the foreign minister slamming the systematic and murderous repression of Syria's various minorities by the government. It is clear that Syria's Islamist ruler thought that the preliminary agreement with Israel, which gave it de facto control over all of the country's south, was a green light to start a battle against the SDF. Israel's reaction, however, indicates that this may be just a political trap.
Hey, yeah, you can't make any deal with the Israeli state. They won't honor anything. Look at the deal that Gaza and Lebanon have, ceasefire deal. Has that been honored? Iran cut off from world as supreme leader warns protests. As protests sweep Iran, Khamenei accused demonstrators of acting at Trump's behest after authorities blocked internet access and phone lines. So, yeah, maybe there was a little bit, but that's just to cut off their communications with... So, guess who really got cut off? These Mossad agents, not your ordinary Iranian citizen, which, might be sending emails to their sister or brother or whatever, but, cutting off, these terrorist groups from being able to use it. Iran largely cut off from the outside world on Friday, after authorities blacked out the internet to curb expanding protests. But guess what? Press TV had been going the whole time, so with phone calls not reaching the country, flights canceled, and online Iranian news sites only intermittently updating. So, yeah, there was a slight pause, but that's about it. In other words, it's not as big as the other articles were saying. Ayatollah Khamenei accused protesters of acting on behalf of President Trump, saying the rioters were attacking public properties and warning that Tehran would not tolerate people acting as mercenaries for foreigners. Talking about the West. Protests began over soaring inflation in the Islamic Republic late last month and spiraled into the biggest for 3 years with unrest, which is nothing but Mossad agents planted among, and they're aware of who instigated that. Iranian security forces hunt Mossad agents and policemen fall to terror attacks. So pretty much though, they're taking out the Mossad agents that were placed in there. Iranian security and judicial authorities announced the dismantling of several armed terror cells from the arrest of foreign-linked operatives amid a wave of foreign-backed riots that claimed the lives of several law enforcement officers. The unrest continued for several days, with rioters exploiting public concerns over living costs and currency depreciation to incite violence. And like everything else, though, we know that this was nothing more than a trick. It was a trick, and they're well aware about the Mossad agents that are planted within that. According to judicial reports, the suspects were not non-local individuals with extensive criminal records who entered the city specifically to incite violence. So that's who was arrested and who really instigated, because, this is acts of violence. And that's terrorism, by the way. Ayatollah breaks silence and blames the U.S. for instigating vandals and saboteurs as cities burn. Today, like the past, the U.S. is wrong about its calculations about Iran. Ayatollah Khamenei wrote, importantly, he added context to his assertion in a Friday speech. First, since the protests began in Tehran, marked 13 days ago, authorities will not back down as Tehran officials charge that the unrest has a foreign hand behind it. So they already know. The U.S. president said that if the Iranian government does such and such, I'll have to take the side of the rioters. The rioters have put their hopes in him. If he's so capable, he should manage his own country. But he can't even run his own country. Hey, they're about to go into another fucking shutdown too. Trump can't even run the country. So, but they tried. They tried to put Mossad agents in there to try to cause uproars. But Iran's well aware of this. Trump threatens to hit Iran very hard over protests. President Trump on Thursday issued a new threat against Iran amid continued protests in the country, saying he will hit the country very hard if Iranian authorities kill protesters. So, same rhetoric. I have let them know that if they start killing people, which they tend to do during their riots, we're going to hit them very hard, Trump told conservative radio host. So, like everything else, so, you know, big talk, you know, and, well, we're not to give Esau any rest, and, this thing of ours, you know, is for those that are strong, that are plugged in, that are pretty much, you know, not lukewarm, you know, because many are going to fall from this, you know. This is the year of apostasy and of sellouts. So a lot of people are going to fall away from this truth, you know, and they are meant to be there as a reason, you know, because the Most High put them there because he didn't want them, you know, pretty much, you know. See, the Most High puts you in your categories, you know. You know, are you a hearer of the word? Are you a doer of the word? Or are you a lukewarm and you have one foot in the world and one foot in, you know, over here? Well, guess what, though? You're going to be found out, you know. Actually, I think I just want to bring this one out because we're in that time, though, you know, of great deception, you know. So we'll just pull this passage out because we're in this time now, and we're definitely in tribulation times, you know, and it's going to get worse. Matthew chapter 24, verse 4. Yahushua answered and said, "Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am anointed, and deceive many." You know, they claim to have the truth, but they're going to deceive many, you know, apostates. And you will hear wars and rumors of wars. That's all we hear about. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation. Well, you hear about these uproars, and that, you know, you're seeing civil unrest in many places, and kingdom against kingdom. And this is what's next, right? Just as the brother was putting it. And then there will be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. You know, Jacob's trouble. Then many will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake, which is having the names Yahweh, Yahushai. Then many will be offended and betray one another and will hate one another. So everybody's going to turn against each other. You know, many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. You know. And this is, you know, twofold, you know. People will be looking to false leaders, you know, and will just, you know, they'll pretty much be deceived because they were meant to be deceived. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. In other words, they ain't going to give two shits about the law. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. You know, so you're just going to have to endure it, right? You know, are you strong? Are you meant for this? Because this is no time for losers, as this video shows. So hopefully this has been edifying. For that I want to say, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh, Shai, Hashem, Rakakadash, Wa Abab Bal, Brakathum, Jehovah elect, Shalom.
Hey, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone who were well. Salutation and much love to the Akim out there pushing out his word in truth and sincerity. This is Brother Ash, Great Millstone Tampa, back with another walk and talk. Lord's will is going to be edifying to the hopeful elect. It's Akim. And let's go through the spirit. You know, if you're not sincere, the Lord is going to get you out of here. Alright? It's only a matter of time. You can only fake the funk for so long before you get disgruntled. Or you know, your lack of, you know, sincerity appears. Alright? Because you can't be lukewarm in this thing. Alright? The Lord said you're either hot or cold. Like if you're lukewarm, the Lord's going to spew you out. The other man's works can't save you. Scripture says to make your calling and election sure. Right? You're supposed to be moving with fear. And that's what it's about, man. The true, sincere servants of the Lord, they ultimately fear the Lord. That's the beginning of wisdom. That's the beginning of knowledge. If you're not fearing the Lord, you're not going to give the Lord your all. All right, like I forgot what scripture it is, but roughly paraphrasing, it says, if you don't work, you don't eat. All right, idle hands causes a man to die. Yeah. All right, there's plenty of scriptures that speak about that. All right, this isn't we're not here to hang out, eat chicken. All right, you weren't called to just hang around. You were called for action. And of course, every member has a different operation, so to say. Not everyone is going to have the same talent or the same role. But what is your position? Just like on a football team, there's only one quarterback. There's one center. You know, everybody plays their position, and if everybody is playing their position properly, the team wins. We don't have room for losers over here. All right, you're either working and playing your position, or multiplying your talents however the Lord sees fit, or what the hell are you here for? Ultimately, you're going to get ousted out. Like either you're going to leave, find an excuse, or you're just going to get kicked out. But ultimately, it's all the Lord at the end of the day. You're supposed to be seeking the Lord out daily, examining yourself daily. All right, striving for the masteries. And again, everybody's not going to have the same position. Not everyone's a prophet. Not everyone's a teacher. But what is your role? If you still don't know, you've been in this thing for a handful of years, and you don't know what the hell you're doing, what the hell are you here for then? All right? If you're not a teacher, you're not a prophet, why are you here? You know? Again, there's going to be helps. There's plenty of positions to be filled. Don't lie to yourself and try to be something that you ain't. You know? Serve the Lord however you can. Again, everyone's not a prophet. All right? Everybody wants to be a prophet until you you're required to do extra. Then I'm too old for this, or I ain't got time, or blah blah blah. You tell the excuses to the judge, like Esau likes to say. Tell it to the judge, because that's what's gonna happen. You put your hand to the plow and you look back. You're not worthy. All right, you're not worthy to be a disciple. You're not worthy to enter into the kingdom of heaven. You're gonna have to die now, and you're gonna be beaten with many stripes, pursuant to Luke chapter 12. Around about the 40-something verse, 42, something like that. So, count the cost. Whether you're going to be able to finish or not. And again, the Lord he's been doing it. It started last year. Well, it's every year, really, but, we see this, as the prophecies are unfolding, the Lord's getting rid of guys for a reason. Why? Because the Lord's about to turn things up. And the guys that can be compromised are just lack the spirit, and they're not growing. You're just being stagnant. You should be growing. That's another thing. You should be growing in this truth. You're still on the same level you were when you came in. You're not studying to show thyself approved. You're not like you're calling election sure. You just, I'm here. Well, that's why the Lord got rid of you. And again, the Lord's sifting for a reason. Big things are coming. All right? Heavy judgments are coming upon this earth. They've already begun. This place is goddamn chaos. All right, America, and Trump's going all out, guns blazing, like he said. But the blessings are coming too. The Lord's about to lift up a standard, and guys that be compromised or guys that ain't right, they gotta go. Like I said, we ain't got room for losers over here, man. The Lord's looking for winners. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. If this is too much for you, imagine what you're gonna do when famine comes, when the hour of temptation comes. See, the Lord's building up the house of David, the mighty men. Not losers, soy boys. The Lord needs warriors, man. We're the front line to defend the gospel, to walk in the spirit. Not only just be out there screaming at white people, you're the devil, but you're a whole devil the whole time. You are your father, the devil, right? How would I say that? But again, the Lord's making it come to light. Yeah. Your sincerity is going to be revealed whether you have it or you don't. In difficult situations, or when the Lord's getting on you through another brother, your character is going to be tested, and ultimately your faith is going to be tested. And if you can't pass these easy trials now, there's no way you're going to make it through the hour of temptation, which Jacob's trouble has already begun. and it's turning up. So you gotta be bugged out to leave now or do some shit to get you kicked out, or just be. And again, you just not doing nothing. That's the reason you out of here, because you ain't doing nothing. You're just hanging around. This isn't a weekend thing. We gotta embody the word. We gotta walk it. All right, James, the brother of our Lord and Savior, he said, "Be doers of the word, not hearers only. Show me thy faith without works, I'll show you my faith by my works." It can't get any simpler than that. And if you're not showing forth your faith through your actions, you have no faith ultimately. And again, the Lord's just going to get rid of you. He might have kept you around for a while, but ultimately, if you were of us, you would have no doubt continued with us. But First John chapter 2, they were not of us, you know? So they didn't continue with us. So they made manifest that they were never of us. And if the Lord get rid of you, you were really never part of this thing. Forever, like another scripture, forever learning but never coming into the truth. Some guys are just doggone lazy. Don't want to do it extra. Or they're still attached to this world. You're going extra hard for the girlies or the bullshit job you got, but for some reason you can't find time for the Lord. Find time to study, right? To grow in the spirit. You're just stuck on stupid, because you're a loser at the end of the day. You're destroying your own soul, which loser, the etymology ultimately goes back to destroyer, or to destroy. And that's what you're doing. You're destroying your own soul. And it's going to get a lot worse now. So the sifting ain't over yet. That's why we got to stay humble, okay? Don't get boasted with knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, right? You know, remember that this isn't your word. This is the Heavenly Father's word. This is His business. This is His mission, so to say. We've just been selected or called to do a job. We're servants. But if you don't take this seriously, the Lord ain't going to take you seriously. You forsake the Lord going to forsake you when you truly need Him. So again, man, the sifting ain't over yet. It's going to continue. And then you're going to be, just for the sincere ones out there, just see how the Lord's working, man. Actually examine what's going on. Why guys are getting kicked out. What bug out shit they got going on, what they say afterwards. Or they just act on their own and do stupid shit. Or they just leave themselves. The Lord's working in many different ways. And it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Once you're out of here, you're out. Alright? Lest the Lord have mercy upon you. Which if He had mercy on you, you would have stuck around in the first place. But hey, that ain't up to us. We got to keep it pushing. Alright? Seek ye the kingdom of heaven first. That's what the Lord said. And again, we got to make our call in the election sure. The next man can't save you. You're just hanging out. Just to hang out. You go back in the world with all that BS. And that's what it was at the first. You still got the world in the back burner, just in case. Well, just go back into it, because the Lord's going to spew you out anyway if you're lukewarm. The Lord is looking for devout men, all right, that forsake all and are willing to do the extra, go the extra mile and sacrifice. See, that's the thing. A lot of guys don't want to sacrifice. Well, you're going to end up being the sacrifice on the Babylon the Great's altar. When that fire comes raining down from the sky, via these thermonuclear missiles. And then you're going to have no one to blame but yourself. And this is deadly serious, man. So, I just wanted to put that up there. Examine thyself whether thou be in the truth. What are you doing for the Lord? What have you done for the Lord today? Have you read? You watched videos? Did you do a video? Okay, you go through some notes. Do something. Are you watching? Or you don't know what's going on? What the fuck are you here for, man? Oh, where did I didn't hear that. That shit happened 3 days ago. What you mean you didn't hear it? It's because you're not watching. All the damn shit that's going on right now. You don't know what's going on? You're through. That's another thing. You're stuck on watching all the bullshit of this world. Football and basketball, all this bullshit. But you don't know what's going on via prophecy? Fuck out of here. Hey, with that, for as well as edifying and exhorting to the elect to keep it pushing and do dirt to the end. We'll give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the elder apostles of Great Millstone. And salutation much less the elect, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Shalom.